Unfortunately, there's something else that we got to talk about here, and it's interesting, right? I told you a minute ago, I said there were two great stories that came out of college basketball on Thursday night. The first one was a positive. My boy Mike effing Woodson got that signature dub, baby. Unfortunately, there was a story that was a tad bit negative as well. And you know where I'm going with this. I'm going down to FedEx Forum, beautiful Memphis, Tennessee. Only been in Memphis once. It seemed like a very nice place, though. Beautiful Memphis, Tennessee, where the Memphis Tigers came into a game against SMU at 9-7 overall. Memphis is struggling. Memphis has a chance for a big win at home against an SMU team that is one of the few opportunities in a bad AAC this year to pick up a signature win. Instead, the exact opposite happens. Memphis falls 70-62 in a game that frankly wasn't as close as that final score indicated. Memphis falls to 9-8 overall. Penny Hardaway has a meltdown in the post-game press conference which we'll get into in a minute. But let me just say this. It is now January 1st, 2022, and here's the bottom line. Memphis is 9-8. Memphis has essentially one signature win on their resume, and that is against Alabama a few weeks ago, and even Alabama isn't that good. And we are now in mid to late January, still almost two full months from Selection Sunday, and Memphis essentially needs to win. The only way they're getting into the NCAA tournament is by winning the AAC tournament. That is where we are today as Memphis, 9-8, and essentially has to win their conference tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. And it's interesting to even go back like in the bigger picture. I'll say this, is that on, I guess it would have been Thursday morning, I actually did a radio interview in Memphis, Tennessee. Good buddy of mine, Greg Gaston, who hosts a morning radio show down there. And I bring it up because I got asked during that interview, I said, they said to me, well, Torres, we're 9-7 coming into this one. But what if we start winning and how many games? And I said, I cut him off. I said, look, I'm not saying that you can't run the table, but what I am saying is it's the middle of January and we have no point of reference to make us believe that you are actually going to do it. If you look at Memphis's resume, it's one thing to be 9-7 in late January, mid to late January. It's another thing to be 9-7 with the wins and losses that this specific Memphis team has. This is not a criticism of Penny Hardaway. This is not a criticism of Memphis. But when you have the number one ranked recruiting class in your program, when you have multiple players that are believed to be NBA draft picks, you have to be 9-7. You have to be better than 9-7 against this specific schedule. Here are who some of the losses that Memphis has taken are to. One, first loss of the year, Iowa State, forgivable. Iowa State's actually pretty good this year. And if that was it, I wouldn't crush them. But then you lose at Georgia. I'm just telling you right now, Georgia's the worst team in the SEC. Then you lose at Ole Miss. I don't know if Ole Miss is the worst team in the SEC, but they're bottom 3, bottom 4. You lose to Murray State at home. You lose to Tulane. You lose to Central Florida, and then you lose to East Carolina last weekend. And so in terms of where this Memphis season is, it is completely off the rails. It is completely unacceptable for a program that enrolled 2 of the top 5 recruits in the class of 2021, Amani Bates and Jalen Duren, and a team that has multiple other players that are either experienced college players or players that many believe to have NBA futures. Earl Timberlake is a potential first-round NBA draft pick. Lester Quinones has played college basketball. Tyler Harris has played college basketball. Alex Lomax has played college basketball. Instead, they are 9-8 right now, this point in the season. And by now, I'm sure many of you saw the headline from over the course of this week, which was that one of their assistant coaches, you may be familiar with his name, Rasheed Wallace, elected to leave the Memphis basketball program this year. He's on administrative leave, and he's a consultant, and he's not with the team anymore. But why I bring it up is this, is because we are now in year 4 of the Penny Hardaway era. And year 1, he had Tubby Smith's players made the NIT. Year 2, had all his players would have missed the NCAA tournament, but it was canceled because of COVID. Last year, you make the NIT. I've said it many times. By the end of the year, they were one of the best teams in college basketball. They're one of the 68 best teams in college basketball. but they didn't have the resume from early in the season. It is a 5-month sport. It is not a 3-4 week sport heading into March. Well, this was the year. There were no excuses. We talked about it all off season long. Go back and listen to the episodes when Emoni Bates committed. Go back and listen to the episodes when Jalen Duren committed. I said this was the year. There's no excuses. So instead, what happens? Memphis falls to 9-8 on Thursday night, and Penny Hardaway goes to the podium and is asked about what is going on with the program. And here are his responses to what he said. This is his response to what happened on Thursday night. He was asked if he believes that he could get the job done. And he mentions, I wish I could play the audio, but unfortunately I don't have the technology here in the Torres Media Studios here in California. He's asked if he's lost the job if he's lost faith that he can get the job done. And he said, I don't have my full roster. And then he said, and this is an exact quote, this media gets effed up sometimes when it comes to me. Stop asking me stupid effing questions. To which I say, Penny Hardaway, what are you doing? Why are you blaming the media? Why are you blaming this? Why are you blaming that? Why are you saying it's everybody? I don't have my full roster. Well, guess who else doesn't have their full roster? Anyone this time of year. Will Wade was down his top 3 players at Alabama on Wednesday night. Calipari had to play multiple games without Sahvir Wheeler. I could go on and on and on down the list. The point I'm trying to make is this. Being 9-8 with a top 15 team in the country coming into the season at this point of the year, in year 4, when you have yet to play in an NCAA tournament game, it's not the media's fault. It's not people doubting you. It's not people being effed up as it pertains to you. It flat out falls on you. And here's the crazy thing about Penny Hardaway. I looked it up prior to starting this show. You know, record-wise, win-loss-wise, he's not as bad as you think that he is. He's not as bad as you think that he is, as crazy as it sounds. His win-loss record as a head coach, believe it or not, the guy is 72-38. That's not great. That's about a 64% win percentage, but it's not as bad as you think. The problem is he's brought in 2 top-ranked recruiting classes. He's brought in a bunch of high-profile players and now assistant coaches. He has asked for the smoke. He said prior to the 2020 season, I believe we will win a national championship, and he hasn't delivered. He's claimed that his program is on the level of Duke and Kentucky and, Tennessee, who there was a weird situation where they didn't play Tennessee this year, and Rick Barnes was mad. And every step of the way, it's somebody else's fault. It's Rick Barnes' fault. It's I don't know about John Calipari. I'm not saying he's ever accused John Calipari of anything. It's the media's fault. It's the assistant coach's fault. It's the player's fault. It's bad chemistry. It's the veterans don't want to embrace the younger guys. At what point does it fall on Penny Hardaway? Because he's 9-8 with a team that is good enough to beat SMU at home if you're as good as you say you are. And he's out of excuses. And the sad thing is, this is all stuff that we talked about in the preseason. When you go, first of all, I don't think Penny Hardaway, I still don't think he's a bad coach. What I don't think he understands, and not only do I not think he's a bad coach, let me even take it a different direction. I think in many ways, what he's doing is commendable. Like Emoni Bates, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Emoni Bates was kind of lost. He was out of options. And Penny says, come here, work under me. We're going to get better together. Here's the thing, though. Your job is to win games at Memphis. And so you're bringing in a 17-year-old out of nowhere, an 18-year-old in Jalen Duren. And as I said when they committed, I said, this is going to cause chemistry problems. You got too many guys. You have a bunch of guys that have been on campus all summer. Now you're bringing in 2 5-stars in the middle of August. So listen, I could go on and on. You guys know where I stand on Penny Hardaway. I actually don't think he's a terrible coach. What I don't think he understands is roster management. I don't think he understands that you can't bring in 2 5-stars. And the thing that Penny Hardaway has going against him, he doesn't understand that you can't just blame everybody else. I mean, listen, I talk about this stuff all the time. But Calipari, last year, end of the season, they go 9-16. What does Calipari say? It starts with me. I got to figure it out. I got to be better. I need to find the answers. I hope you got us this year because you ain't getting us next year. Chris Mack. I did a whole segment about Chris Mack being on the hot seat on Sunday. But you know what he said Saturday? He said, I don't know what to expect from these guys, and it's my job to figure it out. Go on and on down the list. Kirby Smart, when he's winning, it's the players. The players are the reason that I'm winning. Give them credit. Don't give me credit. Nick Saban, at some point, Penny Hardaway, it has to fall on you. And so I don't mean to belabor the point, but Penny Hardaway, at some point, it has to fall on you. It's not everybody else's fault. It's not the players' fault. It's not the media's fault. It's not the assistant coach's fault. At some point, it simply has to fall on you, Penny Hardaway. And maybe it's today and maybe it's not. But what I will say is we are now at a point here in mid to late January where if Memphis doesn't win the AAC, they are not making the NCAA tournament.